Thank you all for coming. I'm Renee Velasquez. Very nice to see you all again and meet you if I haven't met you in the past. Thanks for coming to get started with Strs, or short-term rentals, Airbnbs. Just so everybody's aware, Airbnb is a brand, so we call them short-term rentals, Strs. Airbnb is just like Kleenex, to tissues, if you will. So you will often be using the term Airbnb and VRBO and short-term rental. It's all the same thing, just Airbnb and VRBO are platforms. Cool? I want to start out by introducing our panel. I'm going to start down at the end with that guy on the end over there. I happen to be married to him. He is Albert Velasquez.
Hello, good evening.
I asked everybody to write a bio, and has anybody had to write a bio about themselves before? It's a little weird and awkward, isn't it? So Albert is a Navy veteran. He served disarming bombs. That's why everything under here is gray. He lives with me and our 3 children. We have 1 in college and 2 school age. In his final years of service, we started purchasing single-family homes to rent, and then through the years we flipped homes, we've added to our portfolio, and in October 2019 we opened our first short-term rental, and we've kind of loved that model ever since. So that's Albert, and then next to him we have Dan Mitchen. Dan started his real estate career as a licensed real estate agent in 2015. During his final year with a focus on production as an agent, Dan sold 44 properties. During that year, Dan was 3rd in volume, sold as a single sales associate at his brokerage of approximately 200 agents, and he was the 2nd in listings taken and won the exclusive Cultural Icon Award, which is voted on by fellow agents. I was super excited to read that because I've received that award myself in the past, so super cool. Dan realized the value in real estate investing and could create what it could create for his young family, and turned his focus exclusively to real estate investing in 2018. In his first year, Dan purchased 6 houses, including 2 apartment complexes. Dan doesn't do anything small. Of 100 total units. So Dan has since liquidated most of his portfolio and now solely focuses on acquiring more Airbnbs throughout Northeast Ohio. Dan and his business partner currently own 6 Airbnbs with a goal to acquire 1 every month. Damn. Love it, love it, love it. And then next to him we have Andrew Jenkins and Rebecca Jenkins. They cohabitate together. So Rebecca and Andrew have been married 23 years next month. Congratulations, happy anniversary. They have 8 children. Congratulations. So he said there's never a dull moment. Andrew's been a teacher for 24 years, a realtor for 7 years, and investing in real estate for 14 years. Rebecca homeschools all 8 children, has a Young Living essential oils business, runs their homestead of animals, and boy, do you guys have a lot of animals, and does all the clean and prep between guests at their Airbnbs. So she's a very, very busy woman. They began their Airbnb adventures in fall of 2018 and have grown to 5 total. And all in all, they love to work hard, play hard, all for the glory of God. So that is our panel. I am Renee Velasquez. I am also a realtor. Was licensed in 2008. I got through that year. Woo! That just catapulted when we got to 2020. It was just a crazier market, but just different. And we have been investing since around 2004, rentals, buy and holds, flips, and then started converting our long-term rentals into Airbnb properties. So that is our panel, and we're going to get started with questions. We're going to try to go through this pretty quickly because there's a lot to cover. How many in the room are agents? Yeah, big majority. Okay, cool. And then the rest of you just kind of want to learn about Airbnbs and short-term rentals? Do we have Airbnb and short-term rental owners in the room right now? Awesome. Okay, cool. So hopefully you'll learn some stuff from us, and maybe we can learn some stuff from you. And then at the end, we'll pass around the microphone if there's anybody that has any more specific questions. Okay? So, anybody else need to say anything before we get started on our questions? So if we could just start, and whoever wants to start this off, Please list how many, we kind of went over some of this, but list how many short-term rentals you currently have, the locations, the bedroom bathroom counts, and then what your average nightly rate is for those properties.
Let's see, how many we have? We currently have 5. We're amidst selling one and starting another one, so we'll still end up with 5. We have a Berea that is 4-bed, 2-bath, and that one's somewhere in the 160 to 200 range a night. We have a Middleburg Heights. Actually both of these are our old houses, previous houses. We just didn't sell them. We just kept renting them out. And we have our old house in Middleburg Heights, 5-bed, 2 full bath, 2,300 square foot. That one usually pushes around 210 to 250 a night. Sleeps 10. Medina, we have a 2-bedroom. Now this one is a little unique. It is an upstairs unit apartment that is 2 bedrooms. There's actually a single bedroom apartment next to it that's a long-term tenant. And then this one's the short-term rental. That one's around 110 a night, 2-bed, 1-bath. It's a little more unique, but we also themed it with the Medina Bee stuff, so that makes it a little interesting. We have the other 2 are currently in Chippewa Lake. Both of them are 2 bedrooms. One is 1.5 bath. That one rents probably about 105 to 115 a night. We push it up quite a bit come summer because it does have beach access. And then the other one's probably about half the size, but 2-bed, 1-bath, and it's, I think we push 90 to 105-ish per night on those. So.
All right, so right now, as an investor, you're always like analyzing your properties and selling properties and buying more properties. So right now, we just sold one of our Airbnbs. We have 3 that are live. We have 3 that are either undergoing rehab or buying one from somebody. So our 3 right now, the one is in Strongsville, small, like little 2-bedroom, 1-bath, no basement, really small, that just went live, and that is $125 a night on the weekdays, and then weekends, I believe we have it at $150 right now. And it's going to depend too, depending what season you're in. So obviously fall and winter are a little bit more slow. We have our other 2 are in Cleveland, in the Ohio City area, and the other one is like on the border of Cleveland and Lakewood. And both of those are very similar, 4-bed, 2 full bath, and on the weekends we get $200 per night, and the weekdays are anywhere from $100 to $150. It's just looking at your availability, how far out you are booked, and then adjusting your nightly rates from there. And yeah, I think we just have those 3 right now.
So we have 2 in Strongsville. Our very first one's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath. It is listed for $165 a night. Our average nightly rate is $100 a night, and the same guy's been there for 19 months. So, the room rates they do adjust, but sometimes it adjusts based on length of stay. We have a 2-bedroom, also in Strongsville, that we have listed for $150 a night. It's a 2-1 ranch, kind of good sized ranch, over 1,200 square feet. And that one is averaging about $98 a night. And I don't think we've had a vacancy day since June 1st. So we've been 100% occupied since June 1st and probably booked out through, I think, February at this point. And
do you mind if we interject?
Sure, go ahead.
Just out of curiosity, so you had 100% occupancy. How many different tenancies have you had?
that's the same guy for 19
One
months.
guy per, okay.
Yeah, it is a unicorn. So, and then our third one, we started one last spring in Port Clinton. It's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house, about 2,600 square feet, and the average nightly rate this summer was $381 a night. It was some nights would be more expensive, some nights were less, but the average for that house is $381 a night. And we have not adjusted for the non-season. And over the winter months, we are basically getting enough to cover all the expenses for the home on a monthly. So we're breaking even. We're in the black for the winter months, but for the summer months, it's a home run. We have a fourth one that due to just some stuff we've been going on here, we've been ready for furniture for 2 weeks. It's all sitting in our dining room, and we'll have it set up here in the next 10 days. But that'll probably
Thanksgiving.
yeah, yes, probably before Tuesday it'll be gone. That'll probably, I'm thinking we're going to push it because it's a 3-2 to about 180 a night, but it's a little restrictive in the township, in the town it's in. So we'll be doing 39, North Worldton. We'll be doing 39 minimum stays there, and we're going to shoot for those people there, and that complies with their law.
For your one in Portland, is there a reason that you haven't adjusted the rate for the season?
I didn't want to deal with the riffraff, so.
I didn't know if there was something behind it.
No, it wasn't, and the rates are so dramatically different that do I want $50 a night for this house that we spent $12,000 on the floors alone to get refinished. So it's just not worth, it's not worth for me to get $200 for 3 nights. Like, it just wouldn't be. So.
And the income that property provides during the season is so great that it pretty much covers the entire year anyway. So we're just a little bit more picky about the off-season.
Yeah.
Is there anything special about that one in Portland to get that kind of rate, or is that?
We bougied it up pretty good.
Yeah, there's no sailboats or, when we first bought the place, I think I kind of asked Renee to go online and go look at what was available. And I suggest, she had just shown me a house someone flipped in Indianapolis, and it was a 100-year-old home also, and it was just very clean lines, white walls, refinished floors, and so.
This was a century home that we took on in 1915.
Yes.
And completely rehabbed. And what we found in Port Clinton is everything's very kitschy. Ship's wheels and starfish, even though you're at a lake and not the ocean. It's very weird. It's very weird. So we decided we weren't going to go the ocean route at the lake, and decided to go a different, more kind of a luxury feel, and it's really kind of paid off. The clientele that we've been able to attract that way has really served us very, very well on that particular property, which is why we wanted to have this kind of forum, is to kind of discuss the local Airbnb side versus vacation rental side. And then I know that there's several people on the panel and probably several people in the room that want to go out of state. Does anyone on the panel own anything out of state in terms of short-term rentals? Anyone in the room that owns out of state short-term rentals? Excellent. So we'll get together and have some talks. Cool. Awesome. Yes?
When will your season pick up for the lake house?
So typically it looks like it picked up. We were ready to go by May 1st, and we got bookings in May. May's a little, the lake is the lake. So it could be beautiful in May, or it could be, suspect. April has some fishing events. Those guys typically they didn't even look at our place. A lot of the time what they're doing is they need somewhere where their trailer needs to go, so they're just doing the hotel motel because their parking lots are so big and they can just line their boats and leave one guy out there to watch the boats.
And then when did it end?
I have a booking next week, and then a booking in December. So at a $380 a night, to us, even if I get one 3-day booking a month during the winter, it covers every expense.
Did it drop to Labor Day or to
It did slow down. Like, we're talking 90. We were at probably 90+% occupancy through June, July, August, and then we had probably 60% occupancy in May and September. It's all weather dependent though in September. The longer the weather lasted, the more bookings we got into October.
Can I ask a question real quick? Do any of you use the smart pricing feature in Airbnb, or do you set the minimums and use it, or you just set your nightly?
I don't, it's not, I don't think
not
it's
accurate.
trustworthy.
No.
No. So I
Can
actually.
you use your mic, please?
Sorry. I'm kind of a
It's for the
numbers.
camera.
So, sorry, I'm kind of a numbers geek, so I actually will push our number. We opened up in May, and I got a booking within like 2 hours, and I knew I wasn't priced right. So I increased the price. I was like, I'll just raise it $50. I got another booking within 24 hours. I raised the price again. And then I realized maybe I can just push the weekends really higher. And so you start pushing. I probably underpriced our lake house by 15% last year. And so in the hotel industry, what they do is they will, once they get to a certain booking level, their prices go real high, right? Because as long as they make at 80% at the price they desire, they make a profit, right? So what they'll do is they'll set their rates really high before they get to that 80%, and they just get as many bookings as they can get at a higher price. They're happy as long as they get their 80%, and they make the same amount of money. So I did the math. If I increase the price by 20% this year, right, but I only get 80% of the people stay that I did last year, I still make the same amount of money, and my house has less wear and tear. Or I could still hit 95% occupancy, and I just crush it for another 15%, right? So we're gonna try that. We'll see.
The second question is, for the houses in Strongsville and North Royalton, who do you find who's renting them? Because I know most people send messages to say like, oh hey, just staying for a work trip or whatever. Do you know?
So our 2-1 has been primarily people building since we started that house. We'll get someone from 2 to 3 months. They stay with us, and their house is being built in whatever community, Westlake, North Royalton, just kind of everywhere. I had someone stay here for a 30-day stay. It had to do with the death in the family. They were kind of like the executor, and her husband was able to work from home, so they just brought all their kids and just kind of hung out. And then right now I have someone, the Cleveland Clinic. Somehow now the insurance companies are willing to pay the Airbnb bill or reimburse instead of a hotel bill. So that's a new avenue that's going to be opening up because of the clinic. And then because it's Strongsville, people's families, they're trying to stay near their family, and so it just happens to be that that Class A suburb like Strongsville has those people that have family or support systems there, so they're willing to pay their premium to stay there.
With Strongsville, ours just went live beginning of this month, and the one booking that we had, our first booking, was actually somebody staying in our Cleveland Airbnb, and she wanted to extend her stay, but we had 2 more guests checking in, and we moved her to Strongsville, but she was here because, similar to what Albert said, there's a death in the family, and she needed somewhere to stay for 2 weeks. And then we have another guest who is, again, similar to Albert. They're building in the area, came from Arizona, and they just need somewhere to stay that's close, just something like basic. It's a little 2-bedroom house. And then Berea, you can probably touch on.
Yeah, we have the Berea Middleburg Heights. When we first started Berea, we were getting a lot of IX Center related or Paul Wallace. Middleburg Heights one sleeps 10, so we've actually had a lot of people come in for weddings, and it's the whole family staying in one place. We've had people come in for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Some come in for, hey, they're just coming into Cleveland and visiting family, and they're staying a week or 10 days. So, I mean, the bigger places, I think you find you're going to get a lot of the similar types of bookings like that.
What was your question, ma'am?
My question was on the North Royalton. You had mentioned a 30-day rule in North Royalton. Is that only if you don't live on properties, say you had an apartment that you were gonna rent on property, would that 30-day rule, you know,
I am not a lawyer, so I'm not gonna give legal advice while I live here.
Use your mic, please.
I am not an attorney and will not be giving legal advice on city ordinances. It reads, they were a little uneducated when they wrote that law. So I would go and look for it. And if you want to play in North Royalton, it's a duplex. So we bought it with full intent of doing an Airbnb in it. But if it doesn't work out, we also bought it at the price where we could just turn it into a straight rental.
So the next question is, how did you get started with your first short-term rental? We kind of touched on it, but okay. I'm going to take credit for this one. I think it was my idea. I was already running a cleaning business, done it for years, so I had that experience. And if we haven't shared yet, we do it all. We don't have cleaning crew, lawn crew. Well, we do have a lawn crew for it, but so we do it all. And I like interior decorating. I've always enjoyed that as well. So when I first heard of it, I just thought it sounded like fun. We were moving out of a house to our current homestead where we're at now, and our children were very bonded to that house. And so we thought about just renting it, but I also didn't want it destroyed. So we were like, okay, let's just Airbnb this one. However, before we got that one done, we had to evict somebody out of one of ours. First time ever. That was fun. And so when they finally left, they left it completely upside down, but fully furnished. Like everything was there. Everything, like the mattresses were downstairs instead of up. Like everything was not where it was supposed to, but he was just kind of overwhelmed with it and kind of sat there, and one day I was looking at our photo stream and all the photos are there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like everything's there. All I have to do is go buy the linens. Let's give this a try. And like worst case scenario, if this doesn't work, because we hadn't tried it yet, I'm like, we'll just take all this stuff and move it down to the next one, so we haven't lost anything. And I think that answered the question. That's how we started. Dan?
So mine kind of happened by accident. I was on social media, and one of my former high school teachers made a post. It was for sale by owner, and it was like 300 yards from a lake down in Carrollton. It's called Leesville Lake. And when I went and saw it, I was just looking at it to buy for myself. There was no internet service. There was no cell phone reception. Like, it was completely off the grid. And so we bought it, and I started thinking, like, we could probably make some money off this thing. Why don't we just throw it on Airbnb and see what happens? And we bought it like dirt cheap because it's in the middle of nowhere. I think we bought it for like 70 grand and put maybe 5 grand into it with like paint and just minor updates. And it just kind of happened by accident, and that ultimately ended up being my best performing, not only Airbnb, but asset of apartments, single families, everything. And then ultimately this year ended up selling it because it appreciated like 100%, doubled in value. And we took our payday and sold it. And it still kind of hurts because I think it grossed like 40 grand a year or somewhere around there. And it is what it is. Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. But when your property doubles in value, maybe I should have refinanced and took some cash out, but that's kind of how I got started.
Dan, when you mentioned selling 2 Airbnbs now, I think, did you sell them as Airbnbs or did you just sell them as properties?
So the one Airbnb wasn't actually mine. It was a client who lives in France. So I sold that one for him, and then the guy that bought it ultimately ended up Airbnb-ing it too. And then my other one down in Carrollton, that was another homeowner, owner-occupant that we sold it to. But we did have a lot of people interested in buying it as an Airbnb.
And the one that you sold for the gentleman and he ended up ultimately doing Airbnb, did your seller, and then did you have communication about the book of business that he had, and then were you able to turn that over to the buyer?
Yeah, he was actually happy because so after closing, there was like a few days of occupancy, and with Airbnb, you can't just tell somebody like, hey, we sold the property, you can't stay here anymore. It's a good way to get delisted from Airbnb. So
what's the implication there?
Because, so once the property sells, technically it's not ours, but we're receiving income through Airbnb. So ultimately I told him like, hey, we can either extend closing or we can keep this as an Airbnb. I'll help you deal with everything, and then I think I Venmo'd him or PayPal'd him or something like that.
You want to handle how you got started?
I got started because she told me to.
So you have to tell us.
You can tell the story.
We were at a graduation party, and I knew some folks that were there that were Airbnb-ing a property that was right next to them in Middleburg Heights. And I said, hey, you should go talk to them over there. And he's like, about what? And I said, about Airbnbs. He's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, just go talk to them. I knew that they were doing well. I wasn't sure how well they were doing. And it was always in the back of my mind that it was something that we could do. But never really had the opportunity to sit down and talk to someone or do something like this to get info, because it was kind of new. Like, we heard everybody going to Airbnbs, like if they went to Florida or they went to Myrtle Beach, but nothing really locally all that much. So they were the first people we knew that were kind of doing something locally.
What year was this?
2019? Summer 19.
So about 2 years ago.
Yeah. And we were curious about the local part of it, like same questions you guys would have, like who's staying there, what type of people are staying at these, these local spots or whatever. Yeah, we got started in Airbnb like right before COVID. And that actually ended up working out very, very well for us, believe it or not. But yeah, so we decided we had a property that was coming vacant. We knew that we were going to have to do some considerable work to rehab it because it had been a long-term rental for us. So we went in and completely rehabbed it and decided to furnish it. It also happened to be one of our more challenged properties. We kind of specialize in challenged properties, and by that, I just mean no driveway, like it's gravel driveway, no garage. It's actually a single-family non-conforming use property, so it's a single-family property on a commercial lot. It had a commercial building right next door, a vacant lot to the side of it, and some commercial building.
Perfect Airbnb.
Perfect Airbnb.
What city was it?
Strongsville. So that was our very first one, and we kind of hit a home run with that one because that's the one where the gentleman has been with us for 19 months paying Airbnb rates. So, yeah.
$3,000 a month for that. Is it
Roughly.
Yeah.
It's a $3,000 check a month.
Yeah. So, very cool.
And I won't even open the calendar up because I don't know how much more he's going to extend for. So at this point, there's no point in opening the calendar until he tells me for sure he's leaving.
What's his motivation?
Yeah, like why is he, what's his reason?
You cannot have him.
I don't know, but he obviously makes too much money.
So the interesting thing about that, we want to be as transparent as we can, but obviously we know that we have some anomalies happening, right? This particular individual is from California, is from here, but was living in California, has some business doings here. So he kind of started renting from us, told us that right off the rip he was kind of probably wanted for about 3 months. And then his business dealings here continued to extend, and then he just ended up staying.
$10,000 a month
Yeah.
to somebody from California is
It
probably.
is kind of a drop in the bucket, yeah.
The only thing he asked for was to install a Tesla plug. I said,
True story.
hire an electrician. And that was his only ask.
No, that wasn't his only ask. The other ask was, could he mow the lawn every once in a while? Because he hadn't mowed a lawn in a really long time because he was from California. So we were like, I guess.
The first summer he mowed the lawn, guys, it was amazing.
Okay.
It's a lot of.
Got rainbows. Unicorn with rainbows.
Yes,
I told you
yes.
it's a unicorn.
So we've got a lot of ground to cover, so I'm going to try to speed this up because I know we want to get you guys out of here too, so get all your questions answered. So next question is, how do you evaluate what would be a good STR property and where are you buying them?
So the biggest thing I consider is neighborhood. We stay away from associations, stay away from highly restricted cities. If a lot of Karens live there, don't start an STR. But the biggest thing is, like, it's so funny that she said we bought challenge properties for years, right? Empty lots next to them, commercial buildings next to them. Nobody cares who's coming and going when there's an empty lot and a commercial lot next to you. Those particular properties that do, the two in Strongsville for us have empty lots next to them. And we have no complaints. And our yards are better now that we don't have long-term tenants because I have a landscaper that just shows up, mows, cleans, does leaves, does everything. So the yard is in way better shape than it ever was before with a long-term tenant.
Yeah, the neighbors is a big piece, and we'll get to that in another question. But how I evaluate is a lot of properties that we look for are in like the Ohio City area, just because it's close to downtown, so there's always something going on. And then on top of that, if somebody's coming in town for a funeral, a wedding, whatever it may be, our Airbnb is still an option as well. But we tend to stick to Ohio City, and then we also are starting to get into the suburbs to see how they perform a little bit, because there's not as much competition in the suburbs. But what I try to keep in mind is I want to stay close to the airport, so Strongsville and Berea. If you're looking for a vacation rental, I would just say so everyone, I shouldn't say everyone, majority of people like water. So if I can get close to water, I like that. And then on top of that is just imagine try to think of a place that you would want to go for a vacation spot. So you could buy a little cottage, maybe a 5-minute walk to a lake or whatever it may be, provide some kayaks, some fishing poles, paddle boards we've done, and people tend to gravitate towards that as well.
I think that over time we've come to more evaluated. I think initially it was, hey, let's give it a go, see what happens. And I think that that's turned into, well, if we're evaluating a property, I kind of have my rule of thumb when it comes to, if this is going to be a rental, it needs to have this in place. And, for example, cash flow of a certain amount. Well, if it's going to be a short-term rental, it needs to be, for my math, I like 1.5 minimum, the 2 times what it should cash flow as the regular rental. So in our case, the ones that we have all have been into that situation where, okay, I evaluated, we might run it as a short-term rental, but I always have plan B. If, hey, it's not going well, then this can just be a regular rental, we'll throw it up for rent, take the furnishings out, call it a day, and just make regular rent. So I think I look at it more like, I think I kind of evaluate it based on, they have options as to which way we want to go. I also have to let my wife evaluate whether she wants to clean it or not with the kids, and so I think that's part of it.
Andrew, when you say cash flow, what do you look to get on a single family rental? And then what do you look to get on an Airbnb monthly?
So it does depend a little bit. And a lot of times, because I also tell that to clients as a realtor, but I like, my rule of thumb is like $500 a month is a good cash flow for a single family. I like that number, and it also depends on how you run your numbers too. So if I'm looking at it as, I'm doing all the management, I put CapEx included in that 500, so I don't subtract that out. So some people, it might end up being lower, but when I'm looking at that short-term rental side of it, we better be looking at $750 to $1,000 before I'm going to really bother. Because we have, in the past, we've looked at some of the numbers, maybe there was a low time on the Airbnb. If she's got to go clean the property and take the kids and go 3 or 4 times in the month, well, number one, that expense comes out of the profit. And number 2, now if that property is only back down to $500 a month cash flow and it's all this extra effort of dealing with the guests and 4 or 5 bookings, it's not worth it for us.
Oh, we're going to grab the microphone 1 second. I just know you're itching with all your math in your head right now. If you just want to talk a little bit about AirDNA and how when you're looking at the property and evaluating it, how you can be sure that you're going to net the amount that you're looking for.
So I live by the Grant Cardone rule. I don't even look at a property unless I'm going to make 20% cash on cash. Okay, that means every dollar it took to buy that property. Now we're very traditional. We are buying 30-year loans on these homes. We've been landlords for over a decade, so it's very easy for us to get that product, right? But they're still requiring us to put 25% down, okay? So I'm looking to get 20% on my 25% down, and that is on regular rentals usually. I want to crack 30% on an STR, okay? Because it does take a lot more effort. So when we start looking at that, I'll look at what rentals are. She'll tell me what the rental values are in that current area, and then we'll say, okay, this is our number. Right now is a straight rental. The numbers we just bought a place it was 17.9, okay, cash on cash without running STR in the building. So, and then what I'll do is go to a page, it's called AirDNA, airdna.co. It's free, you open an account, and you go in there, and there is a feature where you can enter an address. It's called Rentalizer. You would enter an address, and they take all the data from Airbnb, from VRBO, and then a couple other websites. But realize VRBO and Airbnb are 95% of the STR business that is booked through online. Now, that does not count some of the Florida markets that have their own, established ways to book rentals out there. But so you take that website, and it'll actually tell you average daily rate, 157 a night with a 67% booking, and it'll tell you possible revenue, $28,000 for the year for that particular place. And it'll let you adjust for bedrooms, make sure that the data is correct, and it runs it against. And then after I do that, I'll actually go to Airbnb and go, okay, I want an Airbnb in North Royalton. What's out there? What's available? And start looking at what my competition is in that particular city and see what their rates are, because that AirDNA rate may be 167 a night, but the average in that city may be 210 or 220.
Sounds like y'all are managing your own properties. What would an Airbnb manager take on average in this area?
It's about 20%, right? About
Yeah,
20%.
20%?
I wouldn't even consider doing your property for under 20%. It does take a lot of managing of the people and a lot of emergency runs. Everything, and we'll talk about it later, but everything runs on your reviews. Your profitability is all about how you present online.
We talked a little bit about this, about types of properties to avoid, and I think to reiterate, we avoid homeowners associations. It's not to say that all homeowners associations are bad, but the majority of them just don't like it. You get, it's people on the board, and they're super nosy people. Anyone else want to add about, and then we talked about cities that are really anti-Airbnb. It's just not smart to do that dance. North Royalton is definitely one of them. They just wrote this arbitrary law that you need to have, that a short-term rental has to be at least 30 days. So those of us who are doing 3-day night stays, 5-day night stays, it's just, they don't like it. Now, are there some ways around that? Kind of. But yeah, but with the type of clientele and the way that we're appointing the properties, it kind of allows us to get to that 30-day mark. Like the people that are building, they're typically going to be staying with us for well over 30 days. Do you have anything to add about properties?
You really need to watch the cities you're interested in their city council meetings and their zoning meetings. Zoning really is the one that controls it. And it usually is brought up by somebody who heard about a house in another city, and that's how it starts. And next thing you know, they're regulating something that doesn't need regulating. We're going through it right now in our township. We live in Hinckley, and they're trying to regulate it, and I go there and get pissed off.
So in Hinckley, there's a total of 4 Airbnbs, total of 4, and they're trying to regulate. So we asked the question, have you ever been out on we asked the police chief, have you ever been out on a call to an Airbnb? Never. Have you ever had any issues with any of the patrons of the area? Never. So the whole reason behind them trying to do legislation is just that. It's like just something they want to pick on that day, right? So we just try to cut them off at the pass and actually give some education around it so that we can frame it in a way that it makes sense to them, that it's actually a good thing to bring these people in. They look at the Airbnb people as transients and that they're there to do no good. When I don't know anybody who's going to Hinckley to whoop it up and have a party, I mean, especially at $300 a night. Like, there's tons of other places you can go, right? So it's just an interesting thing. Any other things to avoid, do you think? No? Good. All right, very good. Are you purchasing properties that need rehabs, or are you purchasing properties that are pretty much market ready?
So I was doing flips for a while too before we started solely focusing on Airbnbs, and I only buy properties that are either turnkey or need a light rehab. This year alone, we've had multiple contractors steal probably 40 grand or so from us, and it's just constant headaches, things you have to babysit all day, and we're just done with that. So we're strictly looking for properties that, again, are either 100% turnkey or just need like flooring or kitchen countertops, very minor remodels rather than full-on $100,000 guts.
I don't want to do the remodels anymore. We have been very much a purchasing, and I do a lot of the work myself. And it's, I don't know how efficient it is anymore with the amount of properties we have. But it scares me to see the guys that are flipping, and he's not the only one. Everybody is calling me for contractors because guys are stiffing them, not showing up, and you can't have it, especially when you have bookings and you have something that needs repaired immediately. It's stressful. So
I think the majority of the rehabbing that we're looking at is making everything very hard surface, meaning doing luxury vinyl plank in there, getting rid of the carpets, maybe taking laminate countertops and switching them to quartz or granite, just kind of hard surfacing everything out just for ease of use and cleaning and quick turnovers, things like that.
I think that we have mostly either used a property that was ours and turned it Airbnb, or it was very light rehab, minor things, maybe paint and such, or mostly decor, which is her department. So we have one that we're to be renovating soon, and that one's an overhaul, so that'll be good times.
How are you funding or purchasing your SDRs?
So I think, generally speaking, they're all conventional financing, but I must say is that when it comes down to it, you get one, you get another, and he mentioned the BRRRR method, which, does everybody know the BRRRR method? Buy, rehab, rent, refinance, all that, cash it out kind of thing. We've done that, so for example, one of the properties that we've had as an Airbnb, we refinanced it, cashed it out a couple of years ago, it bought another one that we now are Airbnb-ing, so.
What was the question again? I'm sorry. Oh, financing. So we're a little unique. We use traditional financing as well, 30-year fixed mortgages. And then we also, we found a lender that allows us to raise private capital. So what we'll do is we'll raise private capital for our down payment. So we essentially come out of pocket very little or nothing. And then we just manage that property. And the private capital that we get is right around double digits, just shy of double digits. And then we'll do like a 3 to 5 year note payable for those private investors. And then once that 3 to 5 years is up, they can either take their money back out or reinvest it with us. Or our ultimate goal is to build portfolios of Airbnbs and then sell the equity to some of our private investors. And I don't know what those numbers look like yet. My business partner is the CPA and the numbers guy, and I hate numbers. but that's ultimately our goal long-term.
We wait till Renee has a great year and we buy another property. And now once we've been doing this for a while, you start cash flowing quite a bit. We also did a big refi. 2 of our properties were paid off. COVID was hitting and we wanted cash. So we refied 2 properties immediately, cash out refi, and just sat the money in the account. And that's how we bought the lake house out in Port Clinton. And the only reason we got it was because we paid cash. So.
Is anyone there's a model with short-term rentals called Arbitrage. Anyone familiar with the Arbitrage model? Anyone?
Familiar, I haven't done it, but
Yeah.
I was going to ask if anyone's done it.
Cool. So the arbitrage model is basically you approach a landlord that has an existing property, and then you get into contract with them and rent it for what they're wanting for rent, and then you turn around and Airbnb it out and make the profit on the Airbnb rates versus the regular rental rates. And obviously you're very transparent with the fact that that's what you're doing, and you set that relationship with that landlord and say, hey, I'm going to sign a lease for a year or whatever that lease term is, and I'm going to run an Airbnb out of it. And there's a couple of different ways you can do it. You can even partner with the landlord and have them split costs with you in terms of furnishing, and you need to obviously spell it out very detailed, who's responsible for what, the condition of the property, painting, any damages, repairs, things like that, and then who's paying for the furnishings. And you can either split the profit. There's just a bunch of ways to kind of formulate that agreement. But is anyone on the panel doing anything with arbitrage?
A couple years back, when we first were looking in Chippewa Lake, my dad was the one buying at the time. But he only does pretty much what I tell him is the right thing to do. So we got the property and we said, well, this, again, with my math on it, that one would make a lot more sense as an Airbnb. So we kind of thought, hey, we'll split the profits. We didn't really write it all out, but it's my dad, it's whatever, it is what it is. But when it came down to running it for a year, we were kind of like, this isn't really worth it to be profitable to split the profits. So that one's on the docket for us to just buy it off of Dad and
If we're going to do it with just paying what the rent should have been, and then we would have been fine, I think, because we were very new. This was our second Airbnb, and very new to that area. We were nervous. We're like, what if we don't make enough money? Well, that wasn't the issue. It was just complicated. Don't do it with family. Find somebody else, and then I would just do it straight up as a rental. And because we're ended up right now, we're doing everything and bought everything, is basically. So thankfully, his dad is understanding and just going to sell it to us. So the theory behind doing the arbitrage model is the fact that it's going to, you don't have to own the asset, right? You can get into doing Airbnbs or short-term rentals with far less out-of-pocket expenses. And you can then kind of test the waters and figure the whole model out and then decide if you want to go out and start buying actual inventory. Anything more to add on that? Anyone on the panel?
No, I think with
Rents have increased. There's been a lot of upward pressure on our rentals. You can see it. And so I think that's going to tighten until the STR rates could increase also. And there's a couple studies out there that kind of ties rental rates with STR rates, but nothing real solid yet to be able to say, okay, for sure, this is going to be my percentage back from above the rents.
Anyone want to cover co-hosting and what that is, and is anyone on the panel doing co-hosting?
We are currently not doing co-hosting. A co-host, what they do is they basically, you set up an Airbnb or an STR, and they run the entire show for you, and that would be the 20% that we were talking about earlier. they kind of do everything for you. They run, now some co-hosts will actually do the cleaning for you, or they will come in behind your cleaning crew and just make sure everything is to standard. They can really make a bad Airbnb very profitable. If you're in an area where you got bad reviews and you got something wrong that's been going wrong with your property for a while, a co-host that is constantly there and making sure things are happening the correct way will increase your profitability.
As you all are networking, are you finding that there are good co-host companies in this area? Because I mean, I've stayed at a lot of Airbnbs in Austin and Dallas that have these co-hosts, and they're charging down there like 30%, but they're amazing. So you just are basically a background investor on that property. I just didn't know if locally you guys have experienced that you even have good co-hosts.
There is a couple good co-hosts up in the Port Clinton, Catawba, that are running multiple properties. Like when I say multiple, like dozens. Here, I don't think anyone's co-hosting. I haven't met a co-host yet here that's running them. We've talked about doing it. I think I could handle another 4 or 5 properties before I'd have to hire somebody. But we just haven't had the opportunity to do it. It's a big investment for somebody who doesn't already have an Airbnb to invest in the house, furnish it, and then say, okay, I'm going to give you 20% to run it.
When you guys travel, who takes care of? You probably used to arrange that beforehand with family or somebody in the area, one of these guys?
We need to start traveling.
So we definitely I have a handyman, and I have companies from just being a landlord for years that'll take care of something. And then I have a lot of our maintenance is done by either people who we've done business with for years and years. So if I needed something extra, I could get it out of them. Our cleaning person, because of how our model is set up, we're not turning houses every 3 days, right? So my cleaning person, I book her out, hey, they're checking out February 1st. She's like, okay, I'll be there all day. And so because we know they've been there for 3 months, right? And we know the turnaround is going to be heavy. So on a maintenance issue, I would just start calling my handyman that I use or my backup or, and then sometimes when I am in town, I jump in the car.
And we will get to the cleaning part, a portion of it too, in a few minutes.
Can you have next year for a radio for like 3 months?
Yeah, cleaner is by far the most important piece in my Airbnb business. And she's my 4th cleaning company and is just phenomenal. She actually cleans my own house now. She was doing our flips, and she's just made my life so much less stressful, where she doesn't bicker after every guest. She just takes care of it, and just like she'll snap me a receipt saying, hey, you're low on coffee or toilet paper, so I ran and grabbed some, here's a receipt. It's that simple. So having really good systems and like a team per se in place is super important for us.
Travel. I guess to look back, there was times where I was like, okay, family's gonna be in town. I don't know that we've traveled a little bit since we started, but it depended. When we started, we only had 1, then 2, and now it's 5. It's a little more to handle in terms of that.
Honestly, it's the animals. We got animals not thinking. So the bigger problem is who's going to watch our animals. Yeah. Since we were on the cleaning topic, we might as well just slide right into it, and then we'll get to the rest of the questions. But that's a big question, is who do you use in terms of support? Who's cleaning the properties? Who's taking care of the lawn maintenance, all those things? So you guys want to take that? Not him. I need your number so we can travel, if you're a person. So this is what you run into. There's downsides to this. There's not enough good people around. So we're very hands-on though. I mean, we're going to probably talk on the ratings later, but for us, like I want it ratings, and so I want eyes on, and I want to be there, and I want to see everything there and see how it's going. So it's myself and my 3 daughters that are 21, 14, and 10. Oh, she's 22, okay. The 10-year-old just came along in the beginning just because I didn't want her at home, but I found out very quickly you can make beds a lot faster with 2 of you, so she helps me make all the beds. Lawn work is I grab one of my teenager sons and he mows the lawn. They take care of all the stuff outside. So we're pretty much done at the same time. We can get done with that house typically between an hour and 2 hours between the 4 or 5 of us that are there. We bring all the laundry home, and my oldest daughter happens to be right next to the laundry room, and she does all the laundry. So that's how we maintain it. There is one yard with a lot of grass, and we do have a guy though that goes and mows that. We found that was just made more sense for that one.
Well, yeah, we do, like, that was just cleaning and lawn, right?
Pretty much anybody that you need support from.
Maintenance wise, I think similar to what Al was saying, we have people, like if it's a plumbing issue, an appliance issue, we got a guy for that. So, you know, but it's way more complicated than the regular rental where you just say, hey, tenant so-and-so's coming on Tuesday. This is, well, let me check the schedule. There's a break on Tuesday. Can you get there? Nope. Okay, how about next Thursday? So that's a little more complicated in organizing those kinds of things.
When I had my one Airbnb down in Carrollton, I was cleaning that myself, and it was like an hour and a half drive one way. And I said I didn't mind it, but I minded it. And my business partner would just like challenge me on it every single time, because I feel like every single time I was driving down there to clean it, he would call me and want to talk about something and be like, yeah, I'm headed down to Carrollton. So finally I found someone local down there when I had that, and that was through Facebook. And my cleaner now I found through Facebook as well. So I just went into one of the local like buy-sell groups and said what I was looking for and fell upon her. You can also use, there's a website, it's called thumbtack.com, and you can go there and spell out specifically what you want, whether it's a handyman, a plumber, a cleaner, whatever it may be. And I find a lot of my people from that website as well. And what Thumbtack is like, let's say Joe the plumber is looking for more business and I need a plumber. I'll go in to Thumbtack, say exactly what I need, and then all the plumbers in the area that are signed up with Thumbtack, they pay Thumbtack. It's like a small fee, but to get in communication with me. So they'll do that, and then I can look at their reviews, I can call, have a conversation with them, and just makes things super simple.
What do you think we should be paying per term? Like, I know your girl's special in your relationship, but then your first girl, your second person, third person, like, what were you paying?
So the lady down in Carrollton, I think we paid her $60 a clean, and she would clean it 2-3 times a week. Our lady now, we pay her $100 a clean, and the guests reimburse us as well. So they pay that cleaning fee when they pay for their stay. But we paid her $100, and like I said, the stress that she's lifted off my plate, we're going to give her a nice little bonus too at the end of the year.
So roughly $20 to $30 an hour, 20 to 25?
Yeah.
Give or take.
Yeah, right
Yeah.
around there,
Okay.
about 25, 30 for sure.
So our local ones here, we pay her by the hour, and I think it's $25 an hour. She shows up with her team, and I get a bill. I don't mind because people are staying there long term, so I expect a longer cleaning. It's not an hour and a half turn. So our lake house, Renee found through a contractor or business associate, someone who lived out in Port Clinton, which was perfect. Yes, already on site where we need you. Renee and I met her out there. She walked around and she gave Renee a quote, and Renee added $25 to it and said, we want you to clean our house. And so what I have done through the summer is whenever I come and do supply runs while they were cleaning, I read them their reviews. And it's got to be one of the greatest things how they feel, because I tell them that between Renee's design selection and the cleaning, it's the number one and number 2 thing that people comment about our house out in Port Clinton, and it's because of those ladies.
Airbnbs, and I tell them that, and that makes them own, they own the process.
Yeah, that was that's a writer downer. Sharing the reviews with your cleaning crews, it really, really motivates them. The other writer downer is when they give you a quote, you just want to accept it and be like, okay, cool. If you do offer to pay them a little bit more, A, they're shocked. B, they go the extra mile for you. So when there is coffee out, toilet paper out, whatever, they will run to the store and grab it or do whatever. So if you can motivate them that way, it's a really good thing.
And they'll help someone else to clean yours when you need it.
Oh, yeah. And the other thing is that initially my niece is a nurse. If there's anybody that can handle bodily fluids, it's nurses, right? And unfortunately, I mean, it's not like, there's cleaners and then there's people that are doing Airbnbs, like you're having to strip the beds and it's a much different type of clean. So those people have to be okay with seeing and dealing with those types of things. So you need to definitely take that in consideration, because if you're just calling a regular cleaning company and trying to explain to them what you want, it's a totally different type of situation. So we found that nurses, especially if they're doing 312s, they like that kind of work. They'll work for $25 an hour or whatever cleaning Airbnb. So that's a nice resource if you know anyone in that kind of field, or anybody that works in the medical field. They're just used to that kind of stuff, so it doesn't really bother them. One of our biggest challenges has been the laundry part of it, because you want your laundry facilities on site, right? But you're washing all the bedding all at the same time, all the towels all at the same time, and trying to make those turns. So we found that sometimes adding 2 sets of washers and dryers really helps out. And then if you can find a cleaning company that will actually take the laundry with them, and then obviously put the clean stuff on and take the dirty stuff with them, and then just bring it back and do turns that way. But it's a little bit difficult to find for that purpose. Any other comments on that?
Our lake house has 2 washers and 3 dryers hooked up, and that's the only way it can get done with 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms.
4 bedrooms.
Yeah, we do what you touched on, where we actually have 2 to 3 sets of extra linens, like per bed. So my cleaner is always probably washing clothes, God bless her. But that's what we do, is we just have multiple sets. So she comes in, she takes the dirties, takes them home, and then she already has the new linens ready to go and just throws those on, and it's nice and quick. Not my department.
We just last Christmas bought another set for our house, and so we have the 2 sets at our house, although our family alone could use 2 sets. So we're constantly still fighting over the washer and dryers. We have 3 sets. When we first launch a house, typically we try to get it going as fast as possible, and our very first one, our budget was like nothing. So I just went and bought one of everything. I was also kind of testing out different brands and fabrics and how I wanted to look. And once it's good to go, we get our first booking. I go by seconds, and then you buy thirds, and about the time you think you're good, the first ones are destroyed, and you have to go buy more. So just get used to that. So I'm constantly looking. Every time I go to Walmart, I'm always like, especially right now, the shelves are so bare. If they have the sheets that I like, I'm just constantly grabbing them. Pillows, I'm constantly buying them.
I think along those lines, I think that's kind of the whole stocking kind of sort of. I was going to mention, maybe think of the fact that we use Subscribe and Save for toilet paper, paper towels, and the soap stuff that we use for the Airbnbs. What else do we have on there?
So the question was, how are you stocking or appointing?
Yeah.
So why don't we start with this? Our first question is, how are you furnishing the STRs? How are you going about that? Your actual furniture, mattresses, things like that.
So basics like furniture, in terms of beds, we're mostly buying.
He doesn't know. My house looks like yours probably right now. There is furniture that doesn't belong. Because we have one that's hopefully going to launch here soon, and we have 3 more in the works. So my mind is constantly thinking furniture. I've been buying a ton on Facebook Marketplace. I don't know what I would do without that, especially when it comes to hard furniture. Most of my rooms, especially in the beginning, just need your bed and your nightstands. I do not worry about dressers, and a lot of the places are so tiny, I don't want them in there. They just take up room. And so I'm constantly, if I'm seeing something that fits the style of a house, I'm running around like crazy, taking it from other people. That way, I have done Amazon and bought some beds that way. Mattresses, definitely, we always go that way and get them in a box. We typically do like a 10 to 12 inch memory foam mattress. Pillows, I love like TJ Maxx, Marshalls.
Just say you love pillows.
So I started out in the beginning buying those $2 pillows, and because when we're dealing with one that needs, and you're talking 4 pillows to a bed, and you always need your spares, I mean, you could be ending up getting 50-some pillows for one house. So I just grabbed $2 pillows. Well, those only last you a couple of months, so be prepared. So we started going to, like I said, Marshalls, TJ Maxx, those places that have more high-end pillows for half the price, and I just, as I can, slowly, just every time I'm buying more and more of those pillows and upgrading, and those last a whole lot longer. So don't feel like you have to put it out there in the beginning. As far as sheets, you go through so many. So I tried the all cotton perfect sheets, and they just weren't working because people are going to ruin your sheets no matter how much you spend. Same thing with towels. I started out with high-end, lush, beautiful towels, and I don't think they made it through the first night, and they were all bleached and destroyed. A lot of the Bayou products that people use in the shower now have bleaching products in them, and so they just ruin your towels not even realizing it. So now I go to Walmart and buy the like $2 towels that feel nice and soft, and by the time they don't feel soft, they're normally destroyed anyways. And we just literally, I should buy stock in the towels when we go through that.
So my wife does all the shopping. She loves that. She does all the decorating. She buys from Amazon, Walmart. She also does Facebook Marketplace, but we try to stay away from that because we like to document all our receipts and everything. I would say furniture, our biggest lesson is not to go cheap. So don't buy a cheap couch. Don't buy like something that you can put together in 5 minutes because they'll break, and it's just a matter of when, not if. So we told her to up her budget a little bit. I think the Strongsville house that we just bought, the little 2-bedroom, it was like $6,500 to furnish, where we should have spent closer to like $8,000, $8,500 just to get something a little bit more durable, but you kind of learn as you go. But yeah, furniture, definitely don't go cheap. And also mattresses. Make sure you have a very comfortable mattress, because you'll get dinged on reviews because of that. Like if someone has a bad back or whatever, maybe they're used to their mattress. You want to make sure that you have a nice, comfortable mattress.
So we started out, we did a lot of purchases, the first one through Marketplace, and it was a little inefficient. And then basically we started using Costco a lot. Their stuff is super durable. Their couch sets are affordable, and they're usually well built. And then we did a lot of all the, if I mess up the name of these furniture pieces, sorry, end tables, coffee tables, all that stuff. We went to TJ Maxx, with Home Goods, At Home, and so the hardest thing to find is lamps. So when you find lamps, you buy lamps. I was at the Home Goods stores on grand opening in Strongsville, and I walked out with 12 lamps. So it's just it's just something that's difficult to buy that matches, that looks right. But Renee kind of takes care. I don't pick colors or anything. I just pick up stuff.
So 2 schools of thought when you're furnishing your Airbnbs, like you can do Facebook Marketplace and get stuff for cheap, but then you're running around and time is money, right? Or you can set up an actual list in Amazon and stick with your standards that you use in every single one of them and just hit click and it arrives at your doorstep. So, you know, it all depends on how you want to get involved in this business and how efficient you want to be. Great point that Dan brought up in keeping all of your receipts. If you're buying stuff on Facebook Marketplace, you're not getting receipts, you're not writing that or depreciating those items. So 2 schools of thought on when you're furnishing the SDRs. So we talked about the furnishings, now about the consumables. You did touch on the linens, things like that, but pots, pans, glasses, because when you're furnishing an SDR, you're furnishing it for somebody to actually live there, right? So where are you purchasing that stuff? Are you purchasing it in bulk? Are you doing it at Costco, a Sam's Club? Are you doing it at Amazon? What are you doing?
So for pots, pans, like our lake house, I took all our Kirkland, Costco
stainless steel pots, and I took them to the lake house, and then we got a new set. So.
And you keep the receipt and write off the new set.
Yeah, right. And so we do a lot of purchasing of all the little spatula stuff whenever we're at the at-home store. Like it is absolutely insane how many cartfuls of stuff it takes to fill a kitchen. So you just kind of, it becomes an efficiency thing. And we were buying cheaper stuff for some of the Airbnbs, pots wise, and then you're just replacing them over and over again. So in my head, I was like stainless steel. If I have to go in there and scrub those things every 6 months with a Brillo pad, then they'll look good and people will be happy.
Another thing to add to that too is we learned not to use glass. So like cups, plates, bowls, all of that. We don't do glass. It's like the, what is it, like hard plastic? I don't know that. What is it?
Melamine.
Yeah, that.
Melamine or plastic.
Yes. So because again, guests are going to break stuff, whether it's on accident or on purpose, believe it or not. So we get away from that to, again, just kind of harden the property. And yeah, like all the other supplies, like I said, my wife does all that. I don't really know. So.
Interesting, you don't do glass. All right, we do all glass. Well, here's my thing. I don't want to pay more than $1 a dish or a cup or something. So I either look at Walmart if it's the style I'm looking for, or I don't know. I used to think Goodwill was reservation for me. I haven't, because my thing is when they do break it, which I would say for having 5 of them now going for 3 years, we really haven't had too much broken. And then I will run back to that store because Walmart pretty much has the same. I just like white or gray, like just straight up dishes. And same thing with the dollar store. And between the two, they're very, very close in style. So I can just run to the dollar store, grab a couple more mugs, grab a couple more bowls, whatever it is that broke. But honestly, I haven't had to do it much at all, like maybe 1 or 2 here and there. They've been pretty good about it. And for me, a lot of them, I like the open shelving concept in Airbnb because we stayed in quite a few ourselves. And I know when you're in a big kitchen and you're sitting there trying to find where to put something, you're opening every single cupboard because it's not your house. So in quite a few of our Airbnbs, I'm like, you know what, this will look cuter with these cupboards off, and I just take the doors right off, put them in the attic for later, and if the inside's gonna be painted or whatever, and so they can see it all. So I think that's probably why it's part of the decor that I do all the glass stuff with. Pots and pans, I just buy a $100 big, whopping big box from either Amazon or Walmart, and I haven't really had anything that broken yet in 3 years or damaged or scraped. I don't think they cook as much in ours, and so maybe it makes a difference where you're at and how much they're using it. So I haven't had to replace any of those sets yet, but again, it's very different for different places.
Just something to add to the furniture that you meant, the concept of Facebook versus just going to Amazon, Costco, whatever. I think part of it is also, and this is more her usually comes up with the idea of if there's going to be a theme in the Airbnb, because for one, on Amazon now you can find a billion things that are all this thing, or sometimes it's all about like we bought a couch and love seat that were leather, just the right color off of Facebook Marketplace that if we'd have gone to the store, they would have been like $3 or $4 grand a piece, and we got it for what was it, $250, $300 for the set, and it was a pull-out couch. So sometimes the Airbnb, like some of these things that you're going to find, some of it might be related to your theme you're going for too.
I think you were nodding, Albert. When we buy dishes and stuff, we tend to buy 2 boxes at a time. That way we have replacements and whatever. We keep a stockpile of, if you have a basement or a closet or something, at every Airbnb we have one particular area we keep it under lock and key that has some of the consumables, because if you leave the consumables open and available, they're going to use them and use them and use them. And then, then we have some open stuff. You want to have some cleaning products. available for people so they actually clean up after them themselves. Because if you don't have that stuff available, they will not. They'll stay with you for 2 weeks and they won't ever sweep the floor or wipe the counter down if you don't have that kind of stuff available to them. But I think generally for our stockpiles, we have a locked cabinet or a locked closet or something to hold those things, and then we just buy multiple boxes of things. And then that way we try to be at least a little consistent from Airbnb to Airbnb, so that, hey, if something gets broken at this house, we can go over to that house, get the box, and bring it over to that house, if that makes sense. Anything else you wanted to add to that, or? Okay. Cool. We have a lot of ground to cover. We've got 30 minutes to do it. Is everybody hanging in there with me? Okay, cool. If you guys need more refreshments and whatever, they're right over there. Go ahead. Feel free to grab them. What items do you find are the biggest hit with your guests that you never really thought was going to be a big deal, but it's a really big deal for your guests?
We don't really have any for our Cleveland Airbnbs, but I will say the vacation spots, like our vacation spots when we do buy, they're always by water. So I touched on it earlier, is we usually provide 2 to 3 kayaks, and then we'll also do like a paddle board and have like basic fishing gear, and people love that. They love to be able to go out on the lake, kayak with their friends, have a couple drinks, and just enjoy life. Another thing that we do is, we'll probably do this one for Portage Lakes too, but we allow people to bring their dogs. There is an additional fee to that, but I'm assuming there's probably some dog lovers out there. But people, they feel like dogs are their family, and when we say that we allow their pets to come for an additional fee, they don't blink twice, and they're so grateful for that, and they show that in the reviews too. So allowing pets and the kayaks. Another thing on the pets too is I would only allow pets if there's no carpeting in your Airbnb. So whenever we buy properties, if there is carpet, we get rid of it and we replace it with the luxury vinyl plank, the LVT flooring, and it's easy to clean. There's no smell. It's super, super easy to take care of.
What does that flooring usually go for? Do you have just a ballpark?
I want to say material and labor were around $5 a square foot, if I remember right.
Okay.
Right around there. It depends on what kind of flooring you get too, but
Perfect.
right around $5.
Okay. Thank you.
So our biggest thing we get is the teapots. I read an article about how many people use I did a lot of reading about STRs before we did it. Teapots. People use the teapots in our places. So we have $20 teapots from Home Goods. They're the super fancy looking ones that whistle at you. And every one of our places, I have never bought a tea bag, and there is an assortment in everyone, because people go buy their tea and their favorite tea, and they make tea in our houses. And teapots.
So what you'll find in your STRs is that people, they buy their groceries or whatever, they're gonna buy a box of tea, and they're not gonna take their tea with them. They're gonna leave it there, or their granola bars, or their pastas, or their whatever. So you will have just random stuff that they leave behind. Next thing you know, you have an entire assortment of teas and creamers and whatever. And there's some stuff that you obviously want to throw out, y'all. But there's other stuff that you can, keep around and allow the next guest to enjoy. So the teapots have definitely been something that everybody gets super excited about. And you actually get review comments about having a teapot. And we will get to the point where we talk about reviews and how important they are. They will make or break your STR business. And teapots were just one of those things. I know another thing was
Cookie sheets.
I'm not baking when I'm going on vacation. I don't know why people want to do that, but they do. They like to have it. So apparently when they don't do it because they don't have time to do it, when they're with their kids and they actually have time, they want to do things with their kids. So cookie sheets was something that people really liked. And we've learned a lot of this through the reviews that we've gotten, because you can get reviews that are publicly, and then they share ones with you that just come to you that the public can't see. And people offering information saying, hey, because we always ask, what could we have done to make your stay better? Is there anything that we're missing? And Albert, what is your standard line when we bring a new guest to stay with us? What is your standard line?
So when they check in, I tell them that we are very hands-off hosts. I will not contact you during your stay unless you need me. If there is something missing, We are new at this. We will try to make it happen.
And we will continue to use that script for 10 years. Okay? We are new at this, and people are a lot less critical of what you have if you start out with that. So it's that's a writer downer. We're new at this. So please let us know if we could have done anything. And they will be as helpful as the day is long to, to list the items that they would have liked to have seen in the Airbnb. So right, so
Because if they say it's a cookie sheet or whatever, I'll Amazon Prime it there. It'll be there in a day or two, depending on shipping. And so it just comes from humility. That's how I thought of it. I was just like, hey, we don't know really what we know customer service, but we're new at this. We're new at vacation rentals, or we're new at short-term rentals, and it's 2 years, and I still use the line because it just comes from an easy place. I've also used the very early on, we were having people trying to book to party in our Strongsville house, and I told them the police chief lived right down the street. Like, you really don't want to book our place because the chief lives right down the street. So the patrolmen go by at least 3 times a night. And I literally had people cancel the booking.
radio silent, like just all kinds of communication that crickets.
So.
Diffusers. He mentioned in our bio that we do essential oils, and so I love doing essential oils, and I leave diffusers typically in every bedroom and then one in the main room. We do not allow candles for many different reasons, and so this is something where they're able to go and set the mood. One of ours, the large one right now, I actually have just a little slip right there that shows a few different blends of oils, and I left about 10 oils there, and I know they're being used, and I can see it, that they're being used, and so it's just fun. And we've gotten comments that they're like, that is a very, very nice touch. I'll leave lavender like in all the bedrooms to help them sleep or stress away or peace and calming, something like that. So, Dan, I hate to just pour salt in wounds, but I'm going to.
The candle.
Let's talk about the candles and why you don't want to have candles at your STR.
Yeah. So we had candles, and the power went out, and so our guest down in Carrollton lit a candle and decided to check out early because I guess they were scared, I don't know, and they forgot about the candle that they had lit. And when I go there to clean, because I was cleaning it myself, I see this candle on our kitchen countertop just shattered, and like a big black burn mark around our kitchen countertop. And so, yeah, it could have been a lot worse, because when I asked them about it, they said that they had no idea, they completely forgot about it, and thank God it didn't burn down their entire house, because that very well could have happened. And being in the boonies, by the time the fire department arrived, it would have been gone. So that's my candle story and why we don't do candles anymore.
We also had, prior to us sitting down here today, we talked about grills at properties. Everybody likes to grill out, especially at a vacation rental. But regardless, even if you have a local rental, people just like to grill, even in the wintertime. We do have a grill at our lake house. We keep it in the garage. We don't give everyone access to the garage. That's another thing. Airbnbs, you don't need to give access to garages unless obviously they're attached, and that's the most poignant way to get into the house. But we like having our garages at our STRs for us, for whatever things we need, rehab stuff, whatever. Excuse me, but we did have guests that purchased just a charcoal grill and used it at the lake house, and they cooked on it on our picnic table, and then went in and had their food, and just left the charcoal smoldering, and it just burnt a hole straight through the top of the of the picnic table. So we kind of tend to stay away from things that have fire. So even if you have a beautiful fireplace in your STR, we don't put fake logs in it. We don't put anything in it that would give them any kind of notion that will light anything. Right?
How do you handle the candle damage, the picnic table?
You just find them and hunt them down. Dan, how did you handle yours?
So you can make a request through Airbnb. I think it has to be within 48 hours before the next guest checks in. But you submit a claim, you got to make sure you take pictures, and that's the one downside to Airbnb is maybe you guys have had different experiences, but their support is a little frustrating at times because when COVID happened, they got rid of a good majority of their employees. And that's probably one of my biggest challenges now. But yeah, you just submit a claim. You always try to go to the guest first and ask them to reimburse you. And depending on the person, sometimes they will. Sometimes they'll say, oh, there's no way a new couch costs $500 or whatever it may be. And they'll fight it, and then that's when you get Airbnb involved.
So their policy has changed a little bit, and there's a lot of nuance to it. So once you become a host, you're gonna have to go and read it and learn legal speak. As for like the picnic table, they wanted to buy one themselves and go assemble it, and I told them hold off. Let me see. They're going to go on clearance soon. Let me go see at Home Depot, and they were down to $95. So she just Venmoed me the money because it was a personal booking through Renee's sphere.
But you will have, people damage stuff all the time and then they don't tell you about it. So that's why you rely heavily on your cleaning people to put eyes on your properties. And then you also rely heavily on your cleaning people, which is awesome, Rebecca, that you're putting eyes on every single one of your properties. But they also need to tell you, hey, does the walls need touched up? Walls get scuffed, they get, one thing that we put in all of our STRs, regardless if they're local or vacation spots, is we get luggage racks. So we don't do dressers, we do luggage racks. Super inexpensive on Amazon. We typically keep them in the closet and they can use them if they want to, pull them out if they want to, but when they're opening those suitcases, they're scuffing the hell out of the walls. So we go through a lot of magic erasers, and then we just have the cleaning people say, hey, you might want to set up a weekend to come out and touch this room up or touch that room up. So good lines of communication with your cleaning people. Anything else on things to stay away from putting into your Airbnb other than candles or anything that's fire related? No? Cool.
Yeah, what's your liability with the kayaks and things like that?
So with the kayaks, part of our welcome message is essentially you using them at your own risk, and you must wear the provided life jackets. We should probably use a little bit more protection. I had an attorney write up a document for me just to pretty much get rid of all liability, but having every single guest that's staying just became a hassle. It's like you get one booking, there might be 6 people that you need signatures for. So that's, when you're using DocuSign, that's 6 different names, 6 different email addresses. I could probably just leave it there and have them snap a picture of it to me. And that's a good question because I should probably do that. But that's how I was handling when I had Carrollton, and now we'll have Portage Lakes where we'll have to figure something like that out.
I just thought of something that was a big hit at we're a family of white noise people. We've got to have box fans running in our house, whether it's 2 degrees or 82 degrees. Especially our vacation rental, we actually outfitted most of the rooms with a box fan so they can just turn it on and have that white noise in the background, and they use them. So even if you have ceiling fans in the rooms or whatever, those box fans, we just keep them in the closet and people take them out. They use them all the time. It's a $20 thing from Home Depot and people really love it. So just thoughts there. Cool. All right, we've got a couple questions left and we got 20 minutes. We gotta get through it. Because it's all good information that everyone kind of needs to know. So we already talked about support staff, things like that. So what platforms, we've talked about Airbnb, but what platforms is everyone on the panel using for advertising their SDRs?
Right now we're just using Airbnb, and we do a little bit of, we'll get some guests from Facebook, just people seeing our content. But right now it's just Airbnb, and ultimately as we continue to expand and put new systems in place, leverage, we want to get into VRBO and explore some other platforms as well. Yeah.
Quick question. So why did you pick Airbnb versus VRBO? I only use VRBO. I kind of feel like that clientele. We only do 7-day rentals at a time. We don't do 3 days or anything like that. So was there a reason?
So I personally have used Airbnb and I've never used VRBO, so that's initially what I just went with. And I have never used VRBO, but I know it's something that other people are using and we need to get on as well. It's just with so many things going on at once. Like that's on our task list to do. It's just not the number one top priority right now. But as we get into winter and things start to slow down, we'll probably dive into that, yeah.
So our first one that we set up, we did Airbnb, but I was like, well, I don't know what's going to happen, so I put it on VRBO also. So initially I had both. Now, the catch is you got to make sure you have your settings right so they don't get instant booked at the same time. And in our case, what I did was I determined that Airbnb, from my perspective, more well known, more common. If you say Airbnb out in public, 90% of the people you're talking with, oh yeah, I get it. VRBO, huh? What'd you say? And actually when we started it was, there's HomeAway and VRBO were kind of separate. Now it's combined. And now, like I said, the catch is whether or not you make sure, like if Airbnb is booked, VRBO will show it, all that kind of good stuff. Over the course of 3 years, only once did I double book. And that was its own snafu that I resolved pretty quickly. But I only have one of our 5 on both because to me, number one, I don't like the platform of VRBO as much. I just don't. And 2, it for me it was way too much in terms of the complication of the 2 sites. So when we went to all the other ones, I stick with just Airbnb at this point in time.
So I'm assuming you have a vacation rental?
I do.
Yeah. So VRBO has been around a long time. It's a very old name. So the issue being is that we started with homes that were not vacation rentals, right? So our bookings were not going to be that Friday to Saturday or that Saturday to, so it definitely has its strengths in some markets. And I can see it in the Port Clinton. There's a little bit higher percentage bookings through VRBO than you would see in the Cleveland market. But it's just not worth. You have to have a channel manager, or you have to be able to have a deconflicting calendar when you're running both web pages. And at this point, I just didn't see in our vacation rental adding VRBO yet, because we were running 90 to 95% booking through the peak season. So it's like, what am I doing? Like, if I was going to do it, maybe I'll do it when we do raise the prices, so I get a little bit more expansion. Renee, being in the real estate industry, has really helped us with that vacation rental. She immediately hired a videographer and a photographer to come out and do the vacation rental. So we have a 2-3 minute video of that Airbnb of ours in Port Clinton that she's able to grab that video whenever she wants, and she can push it on Facebook and say, hey, I have 3 weekends open in October. And that's how we booked those weekends in October when the weather was terrible, raining, and she's still booking out weekends because she has this whole marketing package for the property that is completely 100% worth it.
Yeah, and I would even encourage, we haven't gone this route yet, mainly because we've been so fully occupied, that I would do a video and professional photography of every single VRBO or short-term rental, and just have that in your marketing stockpile. But Facebook is an absolutely viable place to get bookings, but there's downfalls to that. So when somebody's checking in through Airbnb, there's background checks. Go ahead and give the list of.
So when you book on Airbnb, they run your name against the terrorist watch list, against any county in the United States for sexual offenders. The person booking gets in a complete background. So you're not getting any of that when you're not using, the Airbnb, at least the Airbnb platform.
So if you're booking through Facebook and you get somebody that just happened to, I have a public profile because I'm in real estate, right? So anyone can kind of see my stuff. Most of them are agents that are reaching out because they've got a client that has a need, so forth and so on, and I can kind of gauge who those people are and who's going to be renting from us or our guests. But you do not have those security checkpoints if you're doing that type of marketing. So just be beware who you're actually renting to. A lot of times we're able to avoid some of the pitfalls of renting to somebody that you don't have that background information on because we're renting for such long periods of time. It's not to say that somebody that's going to rent from you for 30 days isn't going to be a pig, right? But we definitely, by the number of day stays and how much our rents are, our night length stays are, you kind of get rid of that party scene and those people that are going to trash your house or do, deface it. So, anything to add on that? Okay, cool.
Just real quick, what's the ballpark figure for a photographer, videographer to go?
That's a really great question. Keith, would you like to take that?
Oh, yeah, so, normally for I guess we'd be looking at about like $100 an hour for video shooting and editing portion of it. Okay. So however long that would take. Typically for shooting an entire house, we'd be looking at about a couple hours to really just get everything, all the details and stuff like that. And then editing usually takes about an hour or 2 hours or so.
So
yeah,
300.
Yeah, about 300. Yeah, about $300.
And that would be photography and videography.
That's for just video. I normally just do video. Okay. Photographers, I'm not really sure. Okay. But as far as the video portion, that's what
Okay. So depending on the quality and how far you want to go, obviously that's going to vary. But I've got photographers that'll shoot a house for $70. I've got photographers that'll shoot a house for 150, 250, 500, depending on what you want. But I will say the edited videos. You get music in the background, so forth and so on. You get what you pay for kind of situation. And if it's something you can continuously use, you just look at it as an investment. And that's it. But it's definitely served us very, very well. I know the Bowmans here, they are one of the unique people that have something out of the country, actually. Territory, right, of the U.S. But nonetheless, they've booked theirs through Facebook almost exclusively. Is that correct?
Yeah. We have a private group, but we only invite people in that we know. And we just figured there's so many people from Ohio that would love to go to Puerto Rico in the winter. We really don't need to list it anywhere. Yeah. And we don't want strangers staying there because we put too much love in it. We don't know what we're doing.
Right. You get emotionally attached to these damn things.
I have luxury towels. I have candles. We're totally shitting.
Are you doing it all wrong?
What have you guys found on minimum stays? Does anybody do a night? Does anybody just go for a week? What's the best range there?
Yeah, I learned the hard way. I did not have minimum night stays, and you learn really fast, especially when COVID happens and everything's shut down. People need somewhere to go to hang out with their friends and party, and that unfortunately was a lot of my Airbnbs up in Cleveland. The biggest way to kind of shut those down is to have a minimum night stay. Even if it's just a 2-night minimum stay, you know that you're a lot less likely to have somebody come over and party. And like I said earlier, once the neighbors get upset, it's hard to get back on their good side. And it's not fun to deal with angry neighbors, which I get. I'd be upset too if I was getting woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning because of a party from an Airbnb. But yeah, 2-night minimum, and then for our Strongsville one, we have a 5-night minimum, and I think everything else is just 2 nights.
You can pay for data on AirDNA. It'll tell you how long people are looking for in your area, how long, when they're looking, 15 days, 30 days, 60 days out, 45 days out. So it starts letting you gauge, we have, other than the lake house is its own thing, it's on a 3-day minimum stay, but our homes here in the suburbs, 15-night minimum stay. And my initial plan was to just try it out, and I went blank for a month. So what I did was I looked and I saw that people that just traveled the next month, they're booking within the 30 days. I set that to 3-night stays. I was actually more profitable that month of May because I had 3 and 5-night stays staying there. And then June 1st is when we started getting all our long-term bookings. But it allowed me, knowing the fact that people don't book, people traveling within 30 days book, they book
within that month before they're traveling. So you can try to play the game where I'm trying to keep my calendar as wide open as possible because I want the unicorn, right? I want the guy staying for 11 months for whatever reason he wants to stay, right? Because to me, the efficiency of getting 100 a night versus 150 a night, but I'm no longer sending the cleaners. All I do is pay the utilities, right? So it's just a different track, but you've got to be able to ride that roller coaster of not having anything. So
For us, it was, we started with 2 night minimums at the first one. And then since then, we've stuck with 2 night minimums, except for the most recent one we started with 10 guests, and with one, it's the biggest house we have, and she's like, I don't want to go clean that 3 times a week. So we did a 3 night minimum, and it actually made a difference because now, okay, you're a little less on the cleanings. I think as we progress, we will probably proceed to longer bookings. I don't remember at the settings how they've changed off and on, but there's, I believe, times when you can go in, select certain days, and make it so that those particular days requires a 5-day minimum. And I've done that around Christmas. Ain't nobody want to go clean the week before Christmas. So if we get a booking that starts on the 23rd, from about the 18th on, I block that off. But I also will go ahead and, early on in the, like August, July, and say, okay, anytime that December and early January gets booked, I want that to be at least 5 nights. So that helps.
And you can kind of look at seasonality on your calendar and be like, okay, when's wedding season? And like, am I in a suburb where somebody's going to stay because there's got weddings and graduations and whatever, and kind of look at the calendar and see what you want your nightly stays to look like in terms of 2 days, 3 days, 5 days. But there's strategies. There's absolutely pricing strategies, and relative to how much you're charging per night and how many days stays there are to capitalize on and make the most out of your Airbnb. Is that on? Okay.
I'll hand it back to you, but I want to touch on, because our lake houses that we have right now, 2 up and running, have longer stays in them, and it's every time it happens, I'm just like, yes, we hit it. One guy was right in the beginning of COVID, and he didn't want to be around his wife that much. So it was something, and he just like, I kept going, hon, you got to check with them because I don't like block up another month, and then he just kept staying, and he stayed for, was that 6 months or something?
Thanksgiving until the end of May.
Okay, and then we have a older couple that's in visiting right now, their relatives for Christmas, and they just keep extending and extending. So we love when that happens. So as much as it sounds like we have a quick turnover, we do, but we also are very blessed to have these that come in that stay for 3-6 months at a time. And my girls all at home go, and can breathe because we're not cleaning 5 a week. It's typically we clean more like 2 or 3 a week. So real quick, slide to know. What is Instant Book, and do you guys use it?
So we have Instant Book, and just to compare, I did Instant Book on Airbnb with the one I had on both, and VRBO was the 24-hour. I had to, they had to ask and so forth. But anyhow, Instant Book is on, but there's some settings that you can, keep in place to help you a little bit. For example, we learned early on that 0 reviews are bad to let them Instant Book, because 0 reviews can either be the best blessing you've ever had or your worst nightmare.
What is Instant Book?
So Instant Book means they can just book it. They don't have to ask you, they don't have to tell you anything. They can go on and they can put in their stuff, and it's just, like I get a ding all the time, every day, every other day, oh, booked so-and-so, so-and-so booked from this date to this date. And, that's fabulous if they've got some good reviews.
So you can review a host, and the host can actually review a guest, okay?
Yeah, so there's minimum requirements of ID, and you can put in some different choices of things that you require to allow them to Instabook, and so that's, one of our things is the reviews by other hosts. Otherwise, when they come up with a 0 review, you don't know what you're getting, so.
Yeah, we have instant book on. We had it off for a while until I learned that if somebody does book and it's instant book, they qualify, you can actually go back and decline that guest and not have them stay. And according to Airbnb, they reimburse you, or they don't hold it against you. They don't have like any sort of penalties or fees or anything like that. And I haven't really had any issues with Instabook. It's just setting your criteria on what's okay if somebody wants to book this right now and be accepted just like that. And mine are pretty strict. So like Andrew said, they have to have reviews, they have to have a picture recommended by other hosts. There's some other ones. I can't remember off the top of my head.
We do not use it at all. I want to talk to them. I want to know why they're coming. The Instabook, it does allow you to cancel, but they do track it. So there is a number on your score for Superhost that at the very end, that's how many bookings you've actually canceled. So the first time I actually canceled an Instabook, I saw the number change and I was like, yeah, I'm not using that anymore. And so what I didn't like about it is somebody could book your place at 5 and they could show up at 5:30 and they want access immediately. And sometimes that's not enough time for me to program the locks and make sure that if I run the heat at 61 degrees when no one's staying there, right? So it's gonna take a couple hours for it to get warmed up. It's in Northeast Ohio. And so we don't do Instabook at all on any of our properties, but my response time is typically under 5 minutes on any questions that someone has. I kind of took that from Renee's business, like from text messages and emails, people want a response immediately. If I typically get a higher booking rate when I can answer someone's questions within 5 minutes, because first of all, they're usually surprised that I'm actually responding that quickly. So.
You mentioned the part where someone right away, but there are settings that you can say that they require a day's notice, in which case you also can leave it that they can inquire. So they can try to instant book, oh, that doesn't work because they want to come in today. And I think early on we had it more than any time recently where we're like, okay, they want to come in tonight at 6, let's go quick and get it ready, and we did. And it was awesome.
There was a 10 o'clock meeting once. There was.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of settings that you can say you require a day after a guest leaves, a day before, those kind of things.
So you mentioned, and we're right on the bewitching hour, so we want to get through these last couple questions super quick. You mentioned Superhost. What's Superhost and how important is it?
To having a 4.8 average for your reviews, frankly, after the years we've been doing it, I don't think it means a whole lot.
I agree with Andrew. I was a Superhost for a while, and then ultimately, it's so hard to keep, you want to have your guests have the best experience, but there's going to be some guests where they don't understand, if they leave a 1-star review, it just kills your reviews. So I used to be a Superhost, not anymore. I haven't really seen a big difference in it.
For Superhost, I think my humble, we don't know what we're doing speech before they check in. We have 5.0 review, every review, except for one, we got a 4 for sound. So, but it
our
doesn't.
challenge property is right next to the railroad track too. Did we not mention that?
Yeah, so I don't think it matters that much. It helps you, so everything we just talked about, Instabook, Superhost, it helps you get higher on the SEO list. So when someone punches in Strongsville, right, or Middleburg Heights, if your scores are higher as a host and at your Instabook, there's a huge level of criteria of how you get to the top of the list. even though someone may be looking in Middleburg where they have property, my property could come up on the top of the list because I maybe have better rankings or whatever. But I don't even think I get treated better when I don't ever call Airbnb. But it doesn't. I think they gave us a $100 travel credit last month because we had Super Host again.
Where are we going?
My next question,
Yeah.
as a newbie, is Airbnb or VRBO charging you any fees or a small percentage for your bookings? How are they making their money on
Yeah.
it?
So they charge the guest 12% to book. Okay, and they charge us 3%, which basically I think they're covering their credit card charges from paying us. They pay you the next day after someone has checked in. So if they check in on a Friday, or let's call it on a Monday, on Tuesday, I'll see the money transfer hitting our account.
And you're paid 3%.
And we're paying 3% of the booking. And then there's a ton of stuff. You can actually add the taxes. Some counties are on top of it, so like Cuyahoga County's already pulling the luxury tax out of the bookings on the websites. But like I can actually add taxes for each individual city or township if they want me to charge like a 3% hotel tax or whatever.
Did that answer your question? In the back, I'm sorry, is it Belinda?
Yeah.
Wow. You're using VRBO, what are they charging you?
I don't know, it's a lot more expensive just because it's Naples, Florida, so
Got it.
it's a ton of fees.
Got it. Okay, cool. Real quick, so how do you encourage great reviews then?
I tell them I'm new.
I actually stole that from Albert a couple months ago. He mentioned that, and so I do the same thing. And just letting people up front know that you're there if they need anything, and that you encourage them to reach out, like if there's anything missing. And then once they actually book out, assuming they left the place okay, and I don't hear from my cleaner, we'll let them know that we just left them a 5-star review and would really appreciate it because we're a small mom and pop business and reviews really go a long way. And sure enough, most of the time they end up giving us a 5-star.
I think I try to answer their questions, being also a realtor, that that business you text instantly, often, constantly. So for me, there's always that good review part of the communication, but I think we still are working on what gets them to do that 5-star. I think part of the problem, I hate the rating system personally, because if I'm going to a 4-star hotel, that's pretty darn nice. But Airbnb's version of that, a 4-star, is like the place is this crap hole in the ghetto, and that's unfortunate because the guests see a 3 and 4 as it's pretty good. We liked it, 3 or 4. We're not gonna give them a 5. Who gets a 5, right? So I think that there's some, and I think we're trying to figure out what we can do to encourage those better reviews. These are some good ideas, and partly I think Airbnb should. I mean, I don't know, they probably won't, but I think there's some adjustment needed in a way that if they're calling a 4.8 a superhost, okay, then they need to let their guests know how it works better.
So for us, I think that the reviews also, and they're saying, hey, we're not seeing a whole lot of difference not being a superhost versus a superhost, and it's like because there's not a whole lot of competition, they're getting bookings anyway, right? But for us, I think we take that review and that 5-star and Superhost like super seriously, because if we ever want to really blow this up as a business and actually do arbitrage and approach landlords or whatever and say, hey, I want to use your asset to run an Airbnb out of, we want to be able to show them that, hey, we've got nothing but 5-star reviews. We obviously run a damn good STR business and present it that way. So I think that's our big business model around that. Any other comments on the reviews?
As far as 5 stars, we were super host in the beginning. We had 1 or 2. It gets more challenging the more you have, because all you need is that one Karen who complains and just wants to be difficult and gives you that low grade, and then unfortunately they're all connected, so it pulls them all down.
Yep, exactly. So obviously the more you have, the more risk you have of getting lower reviews. And I apologize for anyone in the room who's named Karen. No harm to you. Real quick, I think these are two really, really good questions. I'm just going to hold you 2 more minutes. What was your biggest mistake in the SDR business so that we can help you guys avoid it?
Biggest mistake I touched on earlier is candles and having no minimum night stay. When you don't have a minimum night stay, you're going to have parties, and then parties lead to upset neighbors, which leads to Airbnb getting involved. Sometimes the city, like during the city council meetings, they'll bring it up and they'll reach out to you, and that's not fun. That's probably been my biggest mistake so far, is the minimums.
I think when I look at over the course of time, I would say pricing for us. Maybe there's been a lot of times where we probably could have gotten a lot more on a lot of instances, and so we pushed up over time. But when we started, I think that may have been our biggest mistake. We probably could have been making double.
Not starting sooner. We talked about it yesterday, and I think we should have started sooner.
Yeah, and then pricing is another thing, but there's also a concept that if you kind of want to get them hooked on the crack, if you will, especially if the luxury or vacation rental type situation, like you give them a really luxury experience at a modest price, they want to continue to come back, and if you raise it $50 the next time, they're fine. You raise another $50 the next time, they're fine. So it all depends on what you want your pricing strategy to be. But yeah, I think that would be our biggest mistakes, and then and nothing else, guys, nothing.
Not screening.
Always go with your gut feeling. Every single time I've had a bad gut feeling, it's not anything obvious. It's just like you have that uneasy feeling that something bad's going to happen. It always has happened. So I would say always go with your gut feeling, and if you feel like something, like if you just don't feel comfortable, don't feel bad saying no to a guest, and you can give them whatever excuse you want, like you're doing maintenance or repairs or whatever it may be, but just, yeah, go with your gut feeling.
So something we're just working on now is we used to just have the calendar completely open, and so my cleanings, if they're same days, would fall on any day of the week, and that got to be very stressful. So then the conversation came up, all right, we need to hire a cleaner, or we need to do change something, so or I'm just going to quit on you. So he started blocking, like would very closely watch the calendar, and if a same day could occur on a Sunday, he would start blocking off the right days so that didn't occur. So we have not had to clean on Sundays, and that's been great that we just know that. It's rare that I clean on Saturdays because typically they're booked then for the weekend. It was Sundays. A lot of times people are leaving and then they're coming in for the week. So I don't have to work on Sundays, and then now the school year has started, Fridays are out as well, that he's blocked those off. So that's just, it's helped us business. So it's like, you might look at it as like, oh, we might miss out on money, but you're not. God always fills in those gaps, and we always get what we need to, and sometimes we'll get bigger gaps that come in because of it. And so because of that, our marriage is also healthier, our business is healthier, my relationship with my daughters is healthier. So boundaries is good. It's okay to set those boundaries so your overall experience is a good one. That is great advice, and I think that's another mistake that we've made, is not allowing enough time in between turnovers, especially if you have long-term stays. The longer they stay, the more trash the house is going to be, the more deep cleaning it's going to need. And we've had situations where we've had somebody stay with us for 3 months, and we had the same amount of time assigned to the cleaner as we did if they just stayed 3 days. Huge mistake. So make sure that you're looking at that calendar and knowing ahead of time that if they're staying there with you a long time, there's going to be a lot to take care of. And so give your cleaning crew that time to take care of it. Well, now get on to that. Normally things are broken. There's just something that you can't even physically fix that fast. So yeah, longer stays, definitely leave those days afterwards. Biggest wins on your STRs?
I think what comes to mind for us is that the one that we bought specifically was, hey, we're gonna get a nice cottage for our family in Chippewa Lake, and it's gonna be free. So I think that's a huge win, because we rent it out when we don't want to be there, we block it off when we do want to be there.
decor, we touched on it a little bit, but it's huge. And I think it took a bit because we did the rentals before that, which everything is clean slate, to convince him that by putting that money into the decor, you're going to see it back. So once those reviews started coming, saying what a cute place it was, then he finally came to my side and would let me, go to Hobby Lobby then and put pictures up all over. And it really makes a huge difference. Every single one of ours is themed. I'm right with you. I cannot stand lake houses being themed like ocean houses. They are not. But like the one in Medina, it's huge. We didn't start out with it being bee themed, but it was such a big just one room, and we got so many comments that it's slowly creeping into the entire house. I even found a bee teapot that makes the noise of a bee when it goes off. So it's just things like that people want. They don't want an outside of their house experience. They don't want the everyday stuff.
Yeah, my biggest win, similar to Andrew's, is being able to have a house that you can use for your family, especially like when you have something off the grid, and being able to spend time with my daughters or my family, nephews, whatever it may be, and just completely unplug. I'm sure a lot of you guys are agents, like our phones are constantly blowing up, and being able to just unplug and not have to worry about it was awesome. And now we're going to do that with our Portage Lakes house too, where if we're not booked and we want to use it for a night or 2 nights, then we can go down to Portage Lakes and get the kayaks out, do some fishing, and just hang out with family. And at the same time, it's putting money in our pocket every single month.
So our base one's probably the vacation rental in Port Clinton. We have used it. I don't think we've used it enough, but it definitely is a different. The price point's different, profitability's different, the clientele is different. So it's an overall, it's a solid win, and we'll use it as much as we can.
But you have to have the discipline to block off the calendar to where you actually use it. Because then you're looking at the calendar and you're like, well, should we use it that weekend? No, that's going to be a big money weekend. We're not going to use it, right? You start getting used to that income and then you don't have to use it.
Yeah, we had 4th of July unbooked, right? And so I looked at Renee and said, hey, I could probably get the weekend off from work. Do you want to go up there 4th of July? I don't know if the kids will really want to enjoy it up there. So then I was like, I'm going to put some crazy $600 a night price on it, right? It booked. Like within 2 days it booked out when I put that price on it. And so it was just, I think this year we'll do better about when we're going to go up there. But then every time someone canceled or had to move their dates or whatever, we just took the weekend. And we were like, hey, let's just roll up there. So, because it's 70 miles away, it's evil for us to separate.
So real quick to wrap this all up in a bow, I appreciate you guys being so patient. And if you're not comfortable answering this question, because it's a bonus question, if you're not comfortable answering it, that's perfectly fine. I'm willing to be transparent on it. You know that we've been in it since 2019. We have 3 active, a 4th one coming. Would you mind telling them the revenue that you've been able to achieve?
This year revenue will exceed $100,000 on 3 properties. And then hopefully we should break 150 next year with another property on there.
Like I said, my business partner is our numbers guy. He's the CPA, and when I say I hate looking at numbers, I hate looking at numbers. I'm more so boots on the ground, like, hey, I found a property, we should hit our 10% return, what do you think? And he handles everything else. I see the money coming in, but it sounds horrible as an investor. I have no desire to go into Airbnb and see like how it's performing, and that's bad because I just know, like looking at the calendar, what's coming in. But I would say our Cleveland houses, they gross around $3,000 a month, and then the one is actually a little bit bigger, and we just had a guest book for a month, and he's paying $4,200. So it's going to vary too, depending on what season and location.
So I just happened to look at the number on Airbnb today. I do have a handful of VRBOs over the course of the year, and the one we just started in March. Yeah, really the April bookings were realistic. It showed about 125,000 was our gross. So obviously you have a lot more to look into the details of expenses when it comes to the SDRs, as you're paying your utilities and your internet bill and all that kind of stuff, so.
Awesome. Well, they're going to turn the lights out. If does anybody have any real quick question that they want, that they cannot not be here without asking?
One question, you were saying go with your hunch and don't be afraid to do. When in doubt, don't. What's the vulnerability on charges of discrimination, real or imagined?
I don't tell them I'm not booking because I don't feel comfortable.
Obviously you wouldn't, but you know, what's the, are there demographic analyses that, you know, I mean, run a $20 bill in front of a law firm and, you know,
Yeah.
who knows what?
I don't think so, because I don't discriminate, and if they want to look at my past guests and their demographics and all that good stuff, they can go ahead. But I've learned to always go with my gut feel.
All you get is a first name. You don't get a picture, you don't get where they're from, you get a first name, and then whatever information they're willing to give you. So I ask a lot of questions because they usually start, and then once they book, you can see where they're from and what their situation is or where they're coming from or why they're coming to the area. But when they initially request a booking, all you see is a first name, how many days they want to stay, what is your potential income.
Okay.
All right. Well, anyone else real quick? Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming. We hope that this was beneficial and to show you that there's another way out there to make money. And that's not